welcome. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's good to see you all, and thank you for coming. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you Special Agent Matthew Fontaine. He's with the FBI. He's the criminal supervisor out of Western Massachusetts office. He's been with the FBI for 14 years. And he's going to be giving you a great presentation today on fraud and scams. So without further ado, sir, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're well. I do a lot of presentations, and there are very few of them where there's cake. You're off to a great start already. Yeah, my name's Matt Fontaine. I'm a supervisory special agent in Springfield, Massachusetts. So for Worcester County, you all have a resident agency, a satellite office out of the Boston division of the FBI that's located downtown in Worcester, right? So that office will cover all of Worcester County. They cover national security, everything from terrorism to crimes against children, to frauds, complex financial crimes that we'll talk about today. I do the same in Springfield, right? And so I'm here today to talk to you about the Department of Justice Elder Initiative. In this presentation, everything about today is about prevention, because there are, let's say, roughly 14,000 FBI agents in the world, on the planet, to do everything that we have to do. Sturbridge Police Department has X number of officers, 23, and the fraudsters, their job every day is to defraud as many people as they can. And so the rate at which people are being victimized surpasses what we're able to address fully. And so, all of you here today are going to now be armed and empowered with this information to prevent victimization of yourselves, and you're now ambassadors for this information, the people around you. And so, any questions, give them to me anytime. Ask them anytime. You will not interrupt my train of thought, because I don't have a train of thought. I keep these presentations on this disc in a way to just keep me on track. So here we go. Before I kick off the this video, this gentleman was defrauded. He was also the former director of the FBI and was a federal judge. And so you can understand that if it happens to former Director Webster, it can happen to any of us. So former Director Webster was a victim of a Jamaican lottery scam. Somebody calls him and somebody says, "My name is Kennell Thomas. I've selected you because I've done homework on you. I've done your background check. We've selected you for $72 million. You won. You're first place, right? And it's because I did your background check. I know that you're in the you're a judge. I know that you work for Homeland Security. I know that you live in Washington, D.C." He must have missed the part about FBI because he continued to target former Director Webster. As this continues, his wife intervenes, right? And one of the things that I'm going to show you through this presentation is the fraudster's game plan, right? So there's nothing more empowering when you're being targeted to know exactly how somebody's going to come at you, what they're going to try to do to you to trick you, right? And so that's why we're here. So one of the things that a fraudster will do is try to isolate the victim, try to make the victim emotional. And so this fraudster tried to do both of those things. And he did so by trying to get rid of the wife. The wife was saying, "Hey, stop messing around with this guy. You don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know what he's capable of. Knock it off. Just hang up the phone." And so then this transitioned from being nice and congratulations, you just won a sweepstakes, to I know where you live and I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill your wife, I know you live in Washington, D.C., and you live alone, right? And so that was only after his wife, Linda, attempted to cut between the fraudster and then the victim, in this case, Mr. Webster, right? So this is why my advice to you is strongly, hang up the phone. Don't engage, because you don't know who you're dealing with on the other end, okay? In this case, Director Webster, as you can imagine, has direct access to the FBI, and he and his wife made communications that built a case against this particular fraudster, who was located, identified, convicted, and sentenced to 6 years in prison. But it wasn't before that person defrauded other elders of about $300,000, right? So, okay. Some of the statistics we're going to talk about are going to hopefully give you a perspective of like what degree of magnitude this problem is, and why I'm traveling around providing awareness to as many people as I can to prevent from you and your peers from being victims. This is a big number, $1.7 billion in annual losses by the elder community. 40% of seniors, that means, you know, in a random sample, 40% of you will be victimized, but only 5 of you will report it. That is a number that I want to increase. We will not know the degree to which this affects all of you unless we get the reports. And it's there's a portal, which I'll give you a little bit later on, that will walk you through the steps for providing an online complaint. Okay. And then here's one that's important. The online fraudster, he's going to account for only 10% of the frauds. The other 90% are somebody that is close to you, somebody in your life, somebody that might have direct access to your home, whether it's a family member, whether it's a caregiver. 90% of those who commit elder abuse in some way, whether it's physical or it's financial, are somebody that is close and trusted of the victim, him or herself. And so that's why it's so important to have the strong relationship that you all have with the Sturbridge Police Department. Sergeant Payne and Officer Jensen, like, those are the folks that are going to be on the front line of getting you the immediate help that you need. Here's some statistics by broken down to Massachusetts. We're talking 2021, 51.4 million. Over 51.4 million just here in Massachusetts. Okay, now this one tells me a couple things, and I'm going to just walk you through it because graphs can be kind of intimidating if you're not familiar with them. So in the blue here, 19, 20, 21, 22, that's the number of complaints, right? So about 3,500 in most of New England. So New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine, and Rhode Island, that's what FBI Boston covers. You know, 2020 was a big year, and we can understand why. People are more accessible online because they're home and they're trying to figure out what's happening in the world, and our devices are our portal to the outside world, especially in 20 and 21 during the COVID pandemic. But then the little yellow line shows that, yeah, the fraud loss amount in dollars went up a little bit in 2020, but then it skyrocketed, right? And so this is what this tells me. You remember those email scams that started probably 20 years ago, and there was a Nigerian prince, and he needed your help to solve some crisis in his country, and only, you know, $2,000 in American currency would solve that problem. Well, I think we all can have a chuckle about the Nigerian prince now, or the sweepstakes from, you know, a middle African country, because we kind of got over that. But the African prince got a lot of people. And what this tells me is the African prince got smarter over time. So we have fewer victims, but these frauds have evolved to a point where they're more sophisticated and they're becoming more successful. So here, just in most of New England, we're well over $100 million in fraud victimization just in 2022. Okay, this is your county, right? So I've taken the stats and boiled them down. Just Worcester County, we're at about $5 million last year, right? So I think you understand the magnitude of the problem that we're dealing with here, and why I'm here to talk to you about it. And so, how can you, as an ambassador for this information and somebody who could potentially be targeted, how are they going to try to get to you? Well, for many years it's been through the mail, TV, and radio. Okay? I don't see that as much anymore. Many times there would be mailings or there would be ads on television or radio. Does it happen? Sure. Should you be careful? Of course. But I don't see that nearly as much as on the computer, social media, email, even dating apps that will try to establish a relationship with someone of all ages and bring them in, find commonality with them, and then use that relationship to victimize them with a fraud. Okay? On the computer and phone, they tend to hand off to one another. Maybe somebody contacts you on the phone, and then the relationship moves to email. Sometimes it goes the other way, social media, and begins the phone calls. In person, okay, in-person victimization is something that, you know, for me, for Sergeant Payne, alarm bells start going off, okay? If somebody is coming to your house, which in the context of an internet crime is relatively rare, that is something we want to know about immediately, right? And so, as you said, ma'am, our information is out there, but where I live and where I lay my head, that is something that I hold close, right? And I hope that you all do too, in social media environments, in other ways that you communicate with folks, right? So that would be something that it would be an immediate call to the Sturbridge Police Department. If somebody that you've communicated with online says they're coming to your house or plans to come to your house, okay? What I find the most empowering about you know, any kind of crime threat is knowing the bad guy's game plan, right? It's like if you were playing sports and you knew exactly what the other team was going to do, you'd be in a better position to prevent it. So over the course of my career, as a prosecutor and as a FBI agent, I've observed that these things are the most common when it comes to the fraudster's game plan, how they intend to defraud a victim. Now, many times I'll get a call from a department, and a police department, and they'll say, Matt, have you seen this fraud? And I say, well, they'll give me the rundown. I'll say, I haven't seen that particular fraud with those words being spoken. But I'll tell you what, I know it's a fraud, and this is how I know. The first thing is, they're going to try to make you emotional in some way. That might be with excitement, but most often it's with fear. Fear of missing out on something, like a sweepstakes. The fear of a grandchild that has didn't plan to go to Mexico, but somehow got locked up in Mexico. The fear of the IRS or the FBI knocking on your door. Those are all things that are intended specifically to provoke an emotional response from you. And why is that? Because there's nobody in this room that thinks straight, including us in law enforcement, who have been trained to take stressful situations and, you know, work through them calmly. Of course, as humans, our emotions affect our ability to reason, right? To what degree depends on the person. But as everybody in here, can we all agree that at some point in our lives we've been so angry because we've been emotional that we said something we probably regretted afterward? So I'm guilty of that. And this is the reason. We don't make sound decisions when we are provoked in an emotional way, whether it's fear or otherwise. And then what they're going to do is they're going to say, Sean, I need to know by the end of the day, actually, while we're on the phone, I need to know if you're in or out. This sweepstakes is between you and me, and that's it. Sorry, if you hang up the phone, I'm going to move on to the next person.
Goodbye.
Right? Good. Yes, goodbye. But many people don't say goodbye because they've been provoked in an emotional way. That immediate decision isolates them from anybody else, right? The ability to go, huh, let me run this by Sergeant Payne before I continue to talk to this person. They don't want that. They want to make sure that the victim is isolated in a way that they can keep control of the scenario, right? They want to keep you in that fearsome state or that excited state so that you remain emotional and you're not using the judgment that you typically would. And then they're going to demand payment by some means that is difficult for us to track. Might be gift cards. Might be cryptocurrency. Has anybody ever, traded in cryptocurrency?
No.
Like, you think, like, no, that's not me, right? No, I couldn't do that. Guess what? If you have somebody on the other end of the phone, they can walk you through it very, very quickly. You don't have to be savvy. You know what they'll do? And again, this is part of me providing their playbook to you. So if you or somebody that you know is in this position, you'll know that they're going to go, hey, how you doing? How are things in Sturbridge, right? Maybe they've done a little background on you. And then they're going to just do an internet search of cryptocurrency ATMs in your area. And they're like, oh, you're in Sturbridge. Well, guess what? There's a CVS down the road. What I'd like you to do is take some cash, just go to the Coinbase machine. There's just a kiosk there. Put the money in and type in these numbers. Pretty easy. And guess what? Now, you guys are pushing cryptocurrency. Like, you didn't think you'd be dealing with cryptocurrency, but it's that accessible. It's in corner stores. It's in some supermarkets. It's that accessible.
Yeah, I've seen them in supermarkets.
Yeah.
I mean, that's strange to me. You know, why are you going to put money in there and get what?
Right. You get credits in a crypto wallet that may be transacted for some value on the other end. Maybe not. I do an entirely different presentation on investment frauds related to cryptocurrency.
I'm gonna give him money, I want something in my hand.
Right.
Decide.
Right.
A piece of paper.
That's right, yeah. That's how I feel also.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that have decided that there's value in cryptocurrency, and that's why you're seeing the ATMs pop up all over the place, right?
Wow.
But that's how they're gonna request. So that's the game plan. So you think to yourself, well, I was contacted by, via Instagram. Do fraudsters contact by Instagram? Sure. Snapchat? Sure. Match.com? Sure. But this is gonna be the game plan. Now you know it and you know what to look for. Among the most common scams are tech support scams. The fraudsters are really good at identifying our vulnerabilities, the things that make that provoke that emotional response in us. So, you know, like I'm perfectly comfortable with computers. Sergeant Payne is too, I'm sure. But you saw us two, like, I don't know, it's not working.
Yeah, right.
What's going on with it? Like, how do we make it? I don't know. So, for somebody that isn't as confident with technology, and you have now a portal to the internet, you have a portal to your information on your smart TV, on your MacBook, on your Microsoft Surface, whatever you're using, and then you get a pop-up. And that pop-up looks a lot like it's from Microsoft, or it's from Amazon, or it's from Apple. And there's a customer service number, and it informs you that your device is been infected, and all of your data is at risk, right? And so you call that number, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get the most helpful customer service person you've ever talked to in your life. And they're going to keep you on the phone until they get what they want. So I'll tell you a story about a relative of mine who lives in Maine. She's 70 years old. She lives alone. She is highly educated. She cognitively, she is very, very sound, and she lives on her own, very independent, and she enjoys her independence. Okay. So one night she's typing away on her MacBook, and she gets the pop-up. It's from Apple. Your device has been infected. Call this number. She calls the number. Now, immediately, she is intimidated by the fact that she has a virus on her computer and she doesn't know how to get it off. So she's starting to get in the red zone of that emotional state. Then the fraudsters say, oh, do you do online banking? Yes. Ooh, well, that's compromised. So now she's thinking, not only do I have a virus, so maybe some information can get pulled, but now every bit of my online banking can be swept from my accounts. Right? So this is all flooding through her mind as she's alone, sitting at her kitchen table in Maine. So she's emotional, she is isolated, and the only person that can help her, she thinks, is the person on the other end of the line. Ironically, I call her. So I'm just checking in, so I call her up, and she was on the phone with the fraudsters when I called. She sees that it's me and goes, oh, don't have time for him, and she cancels the call. So I didn't get through. So if you take away one thing, if the FBI calls while you're on the phone with a fraudster, pick up the FBI. So then hours go by, and she's still on the phone with the fraudsters. And they have walked her through all of her online banking accounts. Because they're tech support, she provided them access via a portal to look and manipulate her screen and her computer, right? And so I know what you're thinking, and I was thinking the same thing. This is bad. I didn't find out about this until later. So she's starting to calm down after a couple hours and goes, ooh, this doesn't sound right. And she was right. So they recognized this. So what did they do? Just like in the video with former Director Webster, they changed the emotion. They changed it from fear to physical harm fear. And said, well, you know what, I need my money. I've been on the phone with you for 2 hours and I need to get paid. So I'm going to send people to your house. Now the emotions are really kicking in, right? So they said, you need to go to the grocery store, local Hannaford, and get $1,300 in gift cards. I'll tell you what, if they weren't so greedy and they asked for $200 in gift cards, they probably would have been successful. But she drove to Hannaford with them on the phone. She gets there, talks to customer service. She asks for $1,300 in gift cards. She's still on the phone with them. And the Hannaford worker, who has been educated by Hannaford Security, says, man, it's a fraud. Hang up the phone. Hang up the phone. Hang up the phone. And she's thinking, this is my only lifeline to solving this problem. She hung up the phone, and it was like the spell was broken. And she called me immediately. Very emotional. So, we were able to walk through her accounts, freeze the online banking, work through her bank to ensure that her funds were secured, and it's a happy ending to the extent that you could have a happy ending. But, you know, there are a couple things that I wanted to point out. One is that this is not someone who I have any concerns about cognitively. This is not someone who is going to lose any independence in her life by reporting this to me or to law enforcement. Because I know from talking folks in your chair that one of the major concerns that stops people from reporting is, ooh, I do not want my kids to find out. They're going to think I've lost it and I need to go to an assisted living, I need to go to a nursing home, that they're going to have to take me into that house. I like my independence, and I like my life. And so that's why that number of reports is way down, folks. But there's help on the other end of the line. So that's why I encourage you to contact local police and us for help. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to point out in this example is the FBI works with private sector partners in the financial sector through working groups to identify ways that they can identify fraud even before law enforcement does and prevent victimization. The Hannaford example is a perfect example. The banks do the same thing. Credit card companies do the same thing. I tell a quick funny story about credit card activity. You can take a look at my credit card activity, and between my wife and I'll tell you what, it's probably 3 times a week that we're a target. But if I traveled and there were large purchases made in Tucson, Arizona, that's probably not me, right? Because our private sector partners have really good protocols for identifying frauds. You know who else does? My wife. Because she looks at every transaction that we have. And so I was in a training with a friend that she knows, and she knows that he and I love to eat. And so we were in Arizona, and she looks at her phone and sees in our transactions, she's like, this doesn't make any sense, I'm gonna call Matt. So she calls me, and she says, this is weird, I'm just checking on the credit card info. It looks like you went from Chipotle directly to P.F. Chang's. I was like, I did. I was hungry. 2 meals in a row, so what? I said, I was with Nick. She goes, oh, forget it. She knew the deal after that. So a couple other scams that, that I want to highlight for you. Online dating scams, okay? As adults looking for companionship, this is something at all ages that people get drawn in by, right? We all want social interaction. We all want companionship. Match.com has been a place that fraudsters will go to make a connection with people. They'll also do it via Facebook, Instagram, anywhere that people kind of put their guard down. So think about this. If you have an active social media profile, you have probably pushed out information to the world that you wouldn't to a stranger at a grocery store. You don't know the stranger at a grocery store, so you're not going to say, in the produce section, hi, I am a grandmother of 5. I'm from Sturbridge, Massachusetts, and I live in this community. I'm really proud of my dog. I like this and like that, because that information allows someone who, if they wanted to target you in a criminal way, to establish a relationship by saying, that's funny, I live in Southbridge, and I'm away right now, so we can't meet up, but I love dogs too. And it's like, this is how it begins, right? And then some people are wise enough to say, no, this doesn't sound right, this isn't for me. Others who are maybe more isolated will latch on to this, and that's how they're pulled in. Work at home, wouldn't it be awesome to make 90 grand a year, 3 hours a week from my couch, right? Those are offered, those are frauds. Investment scams of every type. I said cryptocurrency is a hot trend. Anybody here confident enough to come up and explain cryptocurrency to the group? Me either. And so that's why I'm not going to invest, and I'm not going to advise anybody to invest in cryptocurrency. So when it comes to that, and somebody is trying to sell you something, if they're also explaining all the pertinent facts, everything you need to know and you don't need to know anything else, be wary of that, whether it's online or otherwise. Let's see if we can get this one to run. Oh, it did.
And you would hear noise in the background, like he was talking to somebody else.
So if you're not able to see it in the back, phony boyfriend defrauds this woman of over $1 million.
Dr. Phil covers this a lot
Yeah.
in his program. It's amazing what people
I just always sort of have a little thought that there was maybe something wrong with this.
So she started liquidating her funds from several accounts.
He was a CPA that had tired, but he still did this for friends. She said he could make a lot of money. And I thought, oh, well, that would be nice. I mean, that would be, something that I could do for my kids.
2 months later,
It was the same month that Consumer Report came out with the whole thing about elder fraud. And a friend was visiting me over the weekend, and I showed it to him, and I said that,
And so in the end, she lost $1.1 million. And if you are like me and you watch this, you go, $1.1 million? Well, that doesn't sound like me, because I have a salary that goes to everything my kids want. I don't have a whole lot left over after that, right? But you know, something to understand is that you know, you've worked your whole lives for what you have, whether it's investment accounts, whether it's pensions, whether it's paying your bills for the last 50 years so that you have a strong credit score. And people that have been defrauded on a continual basis because they're pulled into one of these romance fraud scams, and they truly believe that, in this case, Edward Duffy is somebody that is helping them either to make money or to be rescued from a international issue, and they've got to get back to the United States. They're so convinced that that is the truth that they're exposed to victimization over months or years. And so they may extend their credit, their homes. It's that where the number 1.1 million comes from. She says, I didn't have that money just kicking around at my disposal. But in the end, I was pushing money out. It was like she was compelled. So, that's the problem. What are we going to do about it, right? And so, you know, sometimes it's easier to see in the people around you before you recognize it in yourself, but some signs. Unusual financial activity. Again, like 3 times a week for the Fontaine family at Target, not unusual. But travel expenses, different transactions in different parts of the country, large withdrawals of cash or wire transfers, that's something to be cognizant of for the folks around you. Changes in behavior. If somebody is locked into a relationship that they're really not comfortable with, they may get defensive, they may get angry. That may give you an indication that something's going on with them that is not normal. Missing valuables, that could be a relative, that could be somebody working in your home. Earlier today, I was at Tri-Valley Incorporated, who provide services for elders, educating them on this for folks that work in homes of elders, that, you know, when somebody has access to your home, they have access to all your things, right? And so that's, again, for me and for local law enforcement, that is priority number 1, making sure that everybody is physically secure in their homes. New names and accounts. Phone ringing constantly. I'll tell you why this one is important. Years ago, I did a search warrant in a fraud case in California. There was an area about this size, it was all cubicles, and it was all fraudsters sitting at cubicles with computers and telephones, and they were constantly on the phone, just calling people. And they would keep a list of the people who they were defrauding, right? Because sometimes you get somebody that is so willing to help you, whether it's because they're polite, because they really believe in the message that they're providing, that they got you on the hook, right? And so they will share your information with everybody else in their circle. And so here's how it might work. So I'm the fraudster, and let's say Sergeant Payne is the intended victim. I've called him all the time. I check in on him. He's provided money. He believes the story that I'm telling him, right? And then one of my coworkers said in the fraud office says, "Oh, well, you know, I need somebody that's gonna just take money and deliver it to another location." And I go, oh yeah, I got somebody. And so I get on the horn with him and I go, or I give the number to my friend and say, call Sean. Tell him you know me and that it's all part of our arrangement and that he'll move the money. So now, Sean's number has been passed around from person to person and his phone is just ringing constantly. It can also be a number of other reasons, meaning like your phone number was part of a data leak or something else. But that's an indication. Be aware of that, right? So like the phone calls that you got at all hours of the night, like nobody wants those, right? That's an indication to recognizing the folks around you. Now, what can you do? Now, for your own personal security. Your personal information is your personal information. On social media is a great tool to connect, stay connected with friends and family, but not everybody needs to know where you're going and what you're doing, right? The environment of social media is that everybody is sharing. And so you think, well, I can too. Just be careful with what you share about who you are, where you are, and the people that are important to you. With regard to your financial information and even your personal identifying information, you keep that close. It's shredding documents that you don't need. Don't just throw things out. Make sure your virus protection is up to date. Your Windows protection is up to date on your devices. If you're not sure how to do that, you can bring your device to
Sean?
Staples.
well, not a bad first stop, but
Staples.
a professional that can
That's fine.
address this, right? And so, particularly when it comes to just like your operating system and making sure that your Windows is up to date, like just that will push out a lot of vulnerabilities because Mac and Windows, they want you to use a safe product. So they're constantly pushing out updates to ward off vulnerabilities that they've already identified, okay? In understanding your financial transactions, I would just say this. Another method that the fraudsters will use is they will make it seem like they know everything and you know nothing. And they do that on purpose. They're going to do that so that you don't ask questions that they don't have the answers to. This is your money, folks. If they cannot explain a financial transaction to the extent that you understand it fully, they don't get your money. It's your money. Keep your money, okay? Ask questions. Not until they're satisfied that they've answered all the questions, until you're satisfied that you understand every aspect of what is happening. Credit reports. A very common scheme is when identity information has been compromised, and everyone's has, because of it's accessible to criminal actors through data leaks in the last 20 years or so. Lock down your credit. So Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. There are 3 credit bureaus. They don't talk to each other real well, and not every credit card company goes to all 3. So lock your credit with them, okay? You'll establish an account with them, and then you'll lock your credit. So if somebody gets a hold of your personal identifying information and tries to get a Verizon account, which happened to my dad, or a credit card account in your name, they won't be able to, because say Discover will send a credit report check and it will bounce off a locked, say TransUnion query, right? So that has protected you. Then if you have to open an account of your own, you unlock it for 24 hours, you can allow the transaction to go through, the credit inquiry, then you can lock it again. It's like a little insurance policy on your personal identifying information.
How
Okay.
do you lock it?
You'll have to contact each one of them.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers on hand.
Okay, no,
But you'll have to
call
contact
each
them.
one?
Yep.
Okay.
Then don't engage with folks. Again, like Director Webster, you don't know who you're dealing with. Hang up the phone, don't engage. And then some resources, okay? So I recommend that you call local law enforcement to report that you've been a victim of crime and submit a online complaint to us at ic3.gov, okay? There's a portal that will walk you through the process online, and then you can submit it, okay? It'll ask you for as many identifying items as you have. You might just know that the person gave you George MacArthur as their name, and they called from this phone number. Okay. You might have more. You might have a series of emails. You might have a Snapchat handle. You might have an Instagram feed. You might have a lot of those things, okay? And so those are the things that really fill out for us whether it's something that we're gonna be able to address in a law enforcement capacity. Adult Protective Services, just getting somebody involved, whether it's you or it's a peer that you identify as somebody who's struggling or maybe targeted. Getting somebody to engage with them so you break down that isolation that we've talked about will help them get through this. If it's somebody close to them, they can, either through the police department or legal counsel, get a restraining order. Because, you know, even if they realize, hey, listen, I'm being defrauded, I'm being taken advantage of, if it's somebody close to them, a neighbor, a relative that can keep knocking on the door, eventually they're gonna break down those walls through just sheer persistence, and we wanna make sure that victim is physically safe, but also safe from financial victimization. So here's the direct number for the Worcester FBI office. The supervisor is Ken DeBella. Ken is a good man. I've worked with him for several years at this point. But that's not your first call if you're in danger. If there's an emergency and you're in danger, 911, okay? Don't hesitate, don't wonder if this is an emergency or not. If you decide it's an emergency, you call 911, we get you the immediate help we need through Sergeant Payne in the police department, and then we address things after that. After that, if IC3 if it's a internet complaint, a internet-based fraud, then I'd ask that you go to ic3.gov and submit your information there. And the reason I ask that is we have a team of analysts and agents that go through that data, right, and they find commonalities for all the fraudsters that are calling people across the country. And they'll say, all right, they're all using this phone number. That's somebody that's a real problem. And we have to use our resources investigatively to drive them at that problem. Or a website. Or there's a new fraud scheme that we've got to get out and we've got to tell people about. Like, that's why we try to send people to the central depository for that information, ic3.gov.
So at what point would you call Internet Complaint Center?
So.
Are they like collecting information about frauds?
Yes, so the Internet Complaint Center is IC3, okay? So any crime that's internet-based, even if it was a threat, because many times what I will get is I'll get, well, this person was threatening me online. Okay, it's an internet-based crime, and we can intake it through there. Most of what we see at IC3 is internet-based frauds. But remember, the internet is not just a web page.
Right.
It's also Facebook,
Oh, yeah.
any social media, email, any connectivity to the internet, and it's suitable to go to ic3.gov.
Yeah. Just email them, yeah, you email them and tell them you,
Yep, so
what happened, yeah, okay.
if you go to ic3.gov,
Yeah,
you'll get a page, and there will be a button that says either submit a tip or submit a complaint.
oh,
Click that, and it will walk you through the steps for the information that they're requesting.
oh,
I've actually done it myself when I've identified frauds online.
oh, okay, that's good to know.
Did somebody have a hand up here?
I did. Do you have this to give us on a piece of paper or business card? Because that would be really helpful to post
Sure.
in my house.
Yep.
We'll get it up.
Yeah, we'll get the information out to you.
Okay, and even just leave it here, and we can pick it up.
Sure. Yep, we can do that. Yes, ma'am.
Does this cover the stupid phone calls that you get constantly telling you, oh, I hear, you know, I can help you with your mortgage, or I can help you with your student loan, and I'll be, really?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, you know, it might, but my advice to you on that is don't engage,
I
block
never
the
do, I
number.
just, yeah.
Yep, block the number and prevent victimization to yourself.
But
Because
the blocking, you know, I mean, I have a list on my phone that's taking up space on what I've blocked. But
Yeah.
when you go and look up that number, there's like 10 numbers that are
Yeah.
associated with that one.
Yeah,
You know, so it's like, you feel like you're battling
They just
nothing.
call you on
Yeah.
another number once
Right.
you block it.
Yeah,
I understand that that is a problem, and I don't have a great solution for you. I know that, again, our private sector partners, with the tech world, try to identify routing numbers that are spoofed.
mhm.
So, in the scenario where a network is formatted in a way that, you know, the number appears to be something that it's not, you know, Verizon, you know, then some of the phones, Google, Apple will identify that for you and allow you to mark it as junk. So if that's something that helps on your cell phone, I suggest that.
I've done I have a pop-up that comes delete as junk.
Yeah.
I delete it as junk, and the next day it's back there. You know, I mean, that's why I was just wondering, you know. Another question I have is, when you're watching TV, and this has been one thing that has really bugged me, the ad that comes up on title fraud
Yeah,
on your home.
yeah,
You know, I've never done anything with that, but, you know, these ads that give you a number to call, oh, this is real, we'll take your home from you. How real is that?
Not real at all.
I didn't think so, but, you know, I mean,
Yeah, so understand this, like, that's probably an evolved scam from the IRS scam or the FBI scam that we're gonna come to arrest you. Or we're gonna freeze your accounts. That is not the way that business is done, okay? Your title is, when you bought your house, you had a closing, and your attorney took that title, maybe there's a lien on it from a mortgage holder, but has filed all that information with the court, right? And so that is the source of the real information regarding the status of your title, not what somebody contacts you about, okay? FBI, IRS scams, that we're gonna come to your door, we're gonna freeze your accounts, we're gonna arrest you. Again, that's the fraudster's game plan, right? Provoke an emotional response, and just to get you to click on something or call, right? That's what they're trying to do. So you've already identified it, and so don't engage with it.
Yeah, like I say, everybody sees this when they're watching a program, that comes up, or even title lock or whatever it is, all these places, submit your information to us and we'll protect you.
Sure.
I'm going, all right, I don't know who's on the other end. I'm not gonna call and say, this is my information, can you protect me?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there are LifeLock services, but I'm not gonna endorse one or another, and I have no ability to verify the way that they conduct their business, so,
well, that's good to know that I'm ignoring it.
yeah, do not engage.
Yeah.
How do they
Yes,
get
sir, do you
away
have a
with,
question?
how do they get away with those ads that really are rubbish? Or come on,
Well.
they're not honest.
Yeah, I don't have a full answer, but I can tell you, what I do know is in order to, prove that it's a fraud, we would have to have people who were victimized by the fraud, and we'd have to have a very complex investigation of the way that they conducted their business, usually over time. And then that will happen over, a course of years in a really complex.
Well, I mean, like the TV
investigation.
stations and, those people, they'll take anything to get money, I guess.
They get paid.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
they get
buying ad
paid.
space.
Person's trying to put the ad up, they don't care. They're getting paid. Just like
Sir,
the
do you have a
one I-
question?
Yeah, if I could. Concerning phone calls, if I don't recognize the phone number, I hang up.
Exactly.
And I delete it right away.
Right.
There's no problem keeping a list of delete. Just delete it right away.
Yep.
If I don't recognize the number, I don't answer.
Right.
Very simple.
Or
Same
if it
here.
sounds too good, it probably isn't.
Is it
I don't even
right?
wait for that. I don't even wait for that. Just delete it.
Or you get a phone call that just says the town, Winchester, Massachusetts.
Sure.
I shouldn't answer you?
Yeah. Well, if this makes you feel better or worse, I don't know. But I get fraud calls on my FBI work phone.
Yeah. My kids look at it.
We all have
That makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to ask her, these things come up on your television?
Yeah.
The ads, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who's your provider?
That, it has nothing to do with my
It's an ad.
provider.
I've never, ever had that come up on my television. Have you?
Yes,
never-
yes, I have.
I've never had it come up on
And I
my
think,
computer,
how do
yeah.
they do that? You have to go to the, court.
Well,
Well,
they
they're-
say they're an insurance,
Huh?
that you have to buy that insurance to protect yourself against that.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Usually it's over
Gets too complicated.
I don't have to go any further.
Just hang up.
But you wonder.
Yeah.
It's the easiest.
But you
No,
can,
just
you can
hang
check
up,
your
yeah.
Amazon account in an independent way. So, same thing with emails. There's been unauthorized activity on your PayPal account. It's like, here's the link to check it. It's like, nope. I will log into PayPal the way that I do every time I use PayPal, and I'll find out. Okay. There was a question over
Check my
here.
PayPal and
Yes, ma'am.
PayPal. Don't have to.
So constantly on the telephone, a number will, a number, but it'll come up UMass Memorial.
Yeah, I get it.
And, if it's a number like I don't understand or odd one, or it says scam, I would answer. But, you understand the elderly people. I've got several medical things all coming in a bunch right now.
Yeah.
And UMass, Harrington Hospital here, is part of UMass now.
Yeah.
And so automatically you think, UMass, but
Yeah.
catch this. It's nothing to do with UMass,
Yeah.
constant. The other thing I want to mention is that we were taken in, it never went anywhere, thank God, because we realised it was a scam. But we've had telephone calls, allegedly from our grandson. And the first one, really, and the thing is, it comes to you through the emotions.
Right.
The phone call we got was somebody was upset, it was that grandson, presumably, you know, allegedly, said, oh, there was an accident or something. I was in a friend's car and going through Southbridge, and a little girl ran out in front of us. She's okay, but I'm at Spencer Court right now, and because they found drugs in the friend's car. Now, our grandson, I know, is addicted to drugs. And it really got us, oh my God, they must hit a child, you know, and then as it went on, I was upstairs, my husband was down, big letters, scam, and I ran downstairs. But we stayed on the phone and said, okay, so what do you say? Well, I'll hand you back to the guy, this court, and we're gonna sort this out. They wanted us to put
$30,000 in cash
in a box.
within 2 hours.
When
So
you
I was
live.
going to just wait to deliver.
Yeah.
So I
Meantime,
went and called, I said, okay, he's supposed to be at work. So I called the company he works for. Oh yeah, he's here at work. So that got the whole system going. I said, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to his plant. I'm going to talk to the HR manager and say why I'm really there. She said, well, if you want to come and see him. I said, I don't really need to see him. I just want you to understand what is going on here. Because we've had that kind of thing happen 3 times now.
the last one, it wasn't.
Well, the last one was so obviously false, you know, but the second one wasn't. It can
This
easily
is your
take you in.
favourite grandson.
Yes.
The
I
last one I
said I
said,
don't
oh,
have
what's your
one.
name? Hung up.
Yeah. But it's like you say, the emotional thing,
Exactly.
you know, and well, we felt bad that we were half taken in,
Yeah.
but, you know, fortunately we got our marbles about us. We realised
Yeah,
this
could
is
easily have happened.
not,
Yeah.
But
you
you
know,
know,
we did
but
call the
the
police.
point you made about greed, they wanted $30,000 in cash. Now, how real is that?
Sure.
The thing that intrigued me about it is, in the process, as you continue to talk, it became very clear this is this is not somebody in Afghanistan calling. This is somebody local who knows us, who's doing this to us.
Because the odd thing was, a few days later, where our grandson was working at the time, one of the older ladies working for the company, she got the same call. So, and
Got the
then they
same
knew
call,
where
but-
we lived,
But her
and I
grandson
was
didn't have a
scared.
driver's
I was
license.
scared to go out yeah.
And so, there's gonna probably, in that case, there was some nexus to your personal information in some way, right? But the actual fraud actor could have been anywhere, right? And because, like, in the example where I talked about Sergeant Payne, like, if I were the fraudster and he were the person that I had at my disposal, that I maybe defrauded him, I was able to get him to do things on my behalf, wouldn't I be able to say, okay, I need information from a few people you know, that's all. I'm gonna offer them the same opportunity that I'm offering you. Make it seem completely innocent. I pass that information to my fraudster friend, partner, and then they call you folks. So I could see, just based on my training and my experience, how that sort of thing could happen. Yeah.
There's a thing going on right now, over the last week, but it's been happening on a daily basis. When email comes in, they say, oh, I've got some photographs I think you'd really like to go and see. So it's like a 2-line email, right? And the key to it is, have a look at the email address it came from. You know, it can come from any other country, and I mean, there's a country code. If the email didn't come from the USA, say it came from Britain, it'd have UK in the end, you know, right? You can easily tell from that, but also, very often, it's some scrambled garbage email address. So. But I mean, my point for saying that really is, it's so easy to click on this. Oh, somebody's photograph. Yesterday it came up. I had apparently invited myself to go and look at my own photographs. So, you know, so they're basically, I mean, an obvious question is to say, I was clearly on an email list, and the person who sent that didn't realize that I was apparently sending it to myself. So they really didn't know, but they still had a list of emails. One of our neighbors just a couple of days ago said to me, oh, you sent me an invitation to go and look at your photographs.
So that's interesting, you know, it's coming to me too.
Yeah.
But I mean, where all that information comes from is kind of intriguing. It says, oh, well, you must have had somebody break into your computer. I'm not computer stupid. I've worked with computers 40 years of my life, okay? My computer systems are absolutely up to date in every respect. I have additional security on there, and I cross-check that all the time, yet that information is out there. So you have to make the assumption that people will find information about you no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't have to help them
Just
get it.
ignore it.
So, I was at UMass yesterday, I was giving a fraud talk. It's not all I do, but it seems like it on a day like this. But, so I was given the example of, I wanna go run a 10K race, turkey trot. And so, it's gotten better, but, I would have to register online. And they ask for your okay, email address, okay, date of birth. I'm like, whoa, I don't think so. Because they want to know, hey, how long are you going to be on race day? So you know, track address. Nope, because this is just a web-based portal to register for a turkey trot. If that is compromised, then everybody that is registered for that race or any of the races supported by that portal are out there, right? And so that's why I say, like, our information, our email addresses, we're gonna be on listservs. And so this briefing, I hope, has served to defend against those attempts by people to exploit that in a criminal way.
Why does the birth date have a particular significance? And this sounds really dumb, because when I talk, can pick up medications and that, and have a call through pharmacy, the first thing they ask is, your birth date. And clearly that leads them automatically very quickly towards you or maybe a couple, one or two people maybe have the same birth date. That sort of thing, but basically it identifies you very quickly. So really your birth date is something which tends to be called for very quickly in conversations which may be totally legitimate. So that information is out there. Just, you're talking about a race. I'm the race director for the new 5K that we're running here in Sturbridge. We're now doing year 3. Yesterday I went through, and we do this through an official organization called RaceWire.
Right.
RaceWire has its own system. So I said, okay, I'm going to go and sign up for my own event and see what happens. Guess what? Birthday's right in there.
Yep.
For exactly the reason that you give.
Right.
What's your age?
Yep. So.
Actually, we use, for the race, the director and because we have people in age categories.
Yeah, they get prizes based on what your age range they are.
Yeah, and so I was never comfortable with that, so I would come up with a date of birth that would be suitable for that race day. So I wasn't going to put myself in another date range.
That's smart.
But
it could still be the same year. That would work just fine.
Yeah, because any portal, RaceWire or another, could be compromised, and that data leaks, and they're not going to get my date of birth. They're not going to get my home address. They're going to get 123 Main Street in wherever town.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point.
Yeah,
I'm going to mention that to
hospitals
RaceWire.
and pharmacies, that's what they ask you all the time,
Yeah.
date of birth.
Yeah.
And if you give them the wrong one, because your doctor passed it on.
Yeah, and that's one of those times it's a legitimate purpose, but you've gone to that pharmacy probably for years, your doctor knows that that's your pharmacy, and there are other ways to.
Yeah, but hospitals have been broken into.
Oh, absolutely, yep,
Yeah.
yep, they have.
So I'm leery about going on the chart, where everything goes on there, but I guess it's already on,
Yeah.
computers someplace.
Yeah, patient portals have really digitized, not just medical information, but across industries. Yeah. There was a question in the back.
Oh, I just want, when you were talking about emails, one of my friends, her email was compromised, and he took all the contacts. So I get emails with her name, Rita Wood, and the first time I saw it, I thought, why is she sending me pictures?
Yeah.
And then I did click on it, but then I called her and I asked her, and she said, no, she said, don't. So, but I get under her name,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I know it is deceiving. That reminds me of, it's a separate type of fraud, but I want you to be aware of it, called business email compromise. When somebody's email is compromised, a fraudster can use the information that's in that in order to change subtle information to route, like say a banking wire, to a location that it shouldn't go to. And I'll give you an example. We call it business email compromise because it usually happens in business. Say I have a business and it's a lumber company, and I have suppliers, and I have to pay them every month for either the tools or the lumber they provide, right? And they give me this stuff on credit. So if I'm a successful company, I might be expecting that I'm gonna have to pay one of my vendors, say $25,000 next month. And so I get the invoice in my email, and I see it, I click it, yep, and I send a wire off to pay it, because I was expecting to pay that money. But either my email was compromised, or my vendor's, my supplier's email was compromised. And so what happens is somebody, a fraudster, went in, and they took that information, they sent the invoice, but instead of the other company's banking information, they put their own in, right? And so the money goes out to the wrong place. And so that's something that I advise businesses all the time about. Because again, if you go back to IC3 and you submit the tip, if you've been defrauded by a wire transfer and you promptly get us that information, the analysts and the agents that work at IC3 will see it, they'll recognize it, and then they will freeze the transaction if they're able to. They'll contact both of the banking institutions that are involved, and they'll just call a timeout. And then it will tell you to contact your bank, go through the process to recall that transaction, and that will, sometimes it takes 60 days, but you know, just here in Massachusetts, you know, both my agents and the folks at IC3 have recalled millions of dollars in proceeds that would have gone, you know, to an actor in California, South America, elsewhere. Okay. All right. Very good, folks. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.